What's up, guys? Maik here. Diets worst to best, right? So obviously you type in fat loss, or you open any type of fitness magazine. If somebody still reads paper and you look for diet, there's always a new one. There's the strawberry diet, the pineapple diet, and so on and so forth. And it's hard to know what is actually what, So I group them, and this is not a complete list by any means, from worst to best, okay? The worst diets are the ones that are dogmatic and pretend that macronutrients don't exist. So there we have the carnivore diet, right? Just eat steak and eggs and butter and lose weight. And originally you will, because you're losing your glycogen that binds water, so you're losing 10 pounds, okay? Because you're going into keto. That does not mean you're losing fat, you just lost stored carbohydrates. So obviously there's the danger of high cholesterol, there's the problem with not getting enough vitamins. Carbohydrates are also important for training, and it's the idea of that's how our ancestors ate is just mind-blowing stupid, because that's not what they did. Which brings me to the next one, which is the caveman diet, right? So apparently, according to these people, the caveman ate prime ribs 2-3 times a day and had unlimited access to animal protein. Well, the caveman, the Neanderthal, was a forager. He ate berries, he ate leaves, he ate whatever roots he could grab, and then once in a blue moon he might spear fish or something, and that was animal protein. But animal protein was maybe 10% of his caloric intake. So now that's not how people ate. My favorite being the caveman chocolate, which is okay, so the Neanderthal went on his canoe, went up the Rhine, crossed the Atlantic, got some beans in Costa Rica, came back to what's today Germany, and made milk chocolate. That sounds reasonable. No. So these diets, they are very dogmatic, and while they do exclude processed foods and thereby obviously sometimes causing a lower caloric intake, they're simply not complete, and they're not done for scientific or weight loss purposes. They're just a cult, right? Just like raw vegan, we say, nothing can be processed, which is one of the best vegan proteins is tofu, which is processed soybeans, right? So all of those I stay away from. Like I said, they're too culty. Then what's a little bit better is intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting does not offer any magical fat loss benefits. Just because you eat in this window, you're still gonna stick to your calories and your macros, right? But for some people that is easier, because then they're not tempted to snack late at night. It's kind of the same thing like when 25 years ago you were told not to eat after 7 p.m., which killed TV snacking for a lot of people, which probably was 500 calories each night times 6 days. All of a sudden they save 3,000 calories, voila, they lose weight, right? But intermittent fasting, I don't like it so much because it's very hard, especially for larger athletes, to spread out their protein over several meals in that short window, right? So it is definitely suboptimal. Same with the keto diet, which falls in the similar realm of the carnivore, where you basically taking out carbs completely. That is too dogmatic, because we got to remember carbohydrates do two things really well: recovery and performance, right? So people who physically train, they do need carbohydrates to perform better, right? So while the keto diet also provides sort of an automatic weight loss element to it, because it flushes out the water from what you store in glycogen, there's not necessarily fat loss. And if you're thinking you can eat eggs Benedict with bacon and still lose weight because you're in ketosis, you're growth mistaken. People also don't understand that being in ketosis does not mean you're losing weight. So being in ketosis just means the body uses fat for energy, but let's say tomorrow I start eating 10 sticks of butter. I be in ketosis, sure, but I also be a sumo wrestler, right? So then from there on, you have some more culturally based diets like the Mediterranean diet, which is also a funny term because the Mediterranean encompasses like Tunisia and Morocco. But what we really think is sort of like Italy and Spain, maybe Greece to some extent, like seafood, small portions of carbohydrates and vegetables. And there's obviously nothing wrong with that. That is a good way to go about things. But then in Mediterranean and Italy, you also have tiramisu, right? So now what? So you get my point. In the end, you have to figure out your macros, okay? So let's get to the grown-up, aka sane diets. There's basically two, and they both lead to Rome just fine. So out of the 3 macronutrients, you have to cut something, right? You can't cut the protein, we talked about that, because that protects the muscle tissue. So now we're either cutting, drumroll, carbohydrates or fat, which leaves us with low carb, not no carb, but low carb, so just enough to train, or low fat. They both work. Personally, from my experience, I see better adherence to low fat because carbohydrates, they keep the muscle fuller, you train better, your serotonin puts you in a better mood, and then there's also the hunger retardant part because, let's say, a potato will fill you up much, much more than a tablespoon of olive oil, which is pretty much the same caloric count, but obviously the volume for carbohydrates is much bigger because they contain fiber and all that sort. So however you structure your diet with the macronutrient sheet that we'll be given later, that is, you can go both ways. You can go low carb or low fat. Low protein will make any sense. They both lead to Rome. That's completely fine. It's personal preference. Like I said, I personally lean more toward the low fat variation, but either one works, So we'll go over how to break down the calories and the macronutrients in the next chapter, but this is the breakdown of diets as such. So like completely wonky are the ones that are basically cults, right? Never eat this, never eat anything that grows under the earth or above the earth or whatever. To the more scientific based, okay, there are 3 macronutrients. In order to lose weight and to cut from one of them, it can't be the protein that leaves the other 2 standing, and that's what I get. Maik out.